Welcome to another episode of The Tapestry. I'm Dr. Francois Booker Drew, and this is a show designed to tell the stories of amazing women where we weave our stories into this beautiful fabric that shares our narrative and our life journey. And so this episode is one of another amazing opportunity for you to hear from someone who is not only making a difference, but has overcome many challenges. And so I want to welcome to the show, Thana Simmons, who is a friend of mine. And as you're noticing this thread of, I have these amazing people that are around me. And so I'm always so excited to be able to share them with you so that you can be blessed by what they bless me with. So Thana, thank you for saying yes and coming on to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to do it.
I'm glad. Well, I'm going to read some of your bio because it too is expansive. And I hope that people are noticing that so many of these amazing women have gone through some things and have accomplished a whole lot as well. And so Thana Hickman-Simmons grew up on the south side of Chicago in a very middle-class home. And as a teen, she found herself facing an unplanned pregnancy at the age of 17, just as she had received her acceptance letter for college. And at the time, she did not understand the shift that was about to happen in her plans. Thana was determined to finish what she started, although the journey had shifted, and she was never homeless because of that thing I love, relationships. She had an amazing support system that blessed her. Her parents, her sisters, and godmother helped her realize that she could still have the things that she wanted, which was a degree, a career, her children, and even getting married. Thana started an insurance career at the age of 21 and continued the journey of completing a degree in business administration with, at that time, 3 daughters. She relocated to Dallas in 2007, and she realized that she was blessed with something that many girls did not have: a real mother, a father, a surrogate mother, and a village of women around her. And so as a result, Thana took her journey and turned it into something amazing, which was the creation of Viola's House. It was formed in 2008 as a mentoring program to give aid and support to teen mothers. And what Thana began to do with that is, after creating this mentoring program, she started looking at how she could create housing for these young women who were teen mothers. And many of them were homeless for a variety of reasons. And so as a result, she created, from the mentoring piece, now a residential piece for homeless, expectant teen mothers. And through a partnership with Cornerstone Baptist Church, she opened with 1 apartment and 2 beds in 2015 and had 10 applicants just for that. And once more apartments opened, she began allowing more young women in, and she even started the Viola's House as a house now. It is a beautiful 2-story home that she is able to support 7 to 8 homeless expectant teen mothers with their babies to stay there in the house up to a year. And she'll talk about all the resources and support that she's been able to give to over 50 homeless teen mothers in South Dallas. I want you to also know that Thana not only has her bachelor's degree, she has a license in ministry. She's a certified life coach. She has been in the insurance career as a catastrophic claims manager for over 20 years. And she is going to be starting law school. And so I'm so excited to have my friend and someone that I so admire for the work that she does. She's an amazing mother to her 3 daughters, and she is a gift to all of us that know us. I know her, rather. And so, Thana, I want to start off with asking you about, when we look at television, we typically see teen mothers portrayed in a really negative light. We know the show on
Mm-hmm.
a cable network that I will not name that tends
Mm-hmm.
to highlight these mothers, and you see some of the tragedies that these young women go through, and sometimes it's highlighted in a negative way. Talk about how your experience was different, and what was the most difficult thing that you had to deal with as a teen mom?
My experience was very different than the television reality shows, and one of the main differences is that I had a very, very supportive village. The most difficult thing with my pregnancy is that my father was a fluent pastor on the south side of Chicago. And it was very difficult because he was so disappointed. And me and my father have always been very, very close.
Mm-hmm.
We had a very close relationship. I was a daddy's girl. And so the difficulty for me was disappointing my parents. But once I gave birth to my baby, I was still 17 years old when I gave birth. And they stepped in. They stepped in and they supported me all the way. My sister stepped in. Everybody stepped in to help me. And I did not have to raise my baby on welfare. It was called welfare back then in the 90s. I did not have to raise my baby on welfare, and I was able to have that support so that I could continue to go to school. Now, of course, I still made some decisions along the way because I was a teen mom and I also became a teen bride at 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm being honest, as I look back as to why I made that decision, me and my mother often have that conversation now because I have a 19-year-old. And I would never encourage her to get married at 19. But part of that was just due to my shame. I wanted to prove to my parents that, I wasn't a screw up. But, one bad decision on top of another one doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be an outcome. So, it wasn't smart to become a teen bride at 19 years old because of the fact that I was a teen mom.
How did you deal with your shame though? Because for a lot of young women, especially with the church, I
Mm-hmm.
remember one of my friends in high school got pregnant, and she was heavily involved in a very strict and legalistic denomination. And I watched the shame that they added onto her. How did you deal with that? And how has that even, or has it even shown up in other areas later on? How did you put a stop to it?
Well, I stopped going to my father's church. So I did not show up there once I was showing. I started going to another church that was a little bit more accepting. They had a lot of young people at this church that I started going to, and they were a little bit more accepting of my pregnancy because it tended to be the culture there at the church that I went to. So I went someplace to where, because I wanted to stay in church. And as a matter of fact, my pregnancy strengthened my relationship with God at that time.
Mm.
Is when I learned to journal and learned to solely lean and depend on Him because it was just tense in my house. So I was so shameful that I stopped showing up at my dad's church. Um, and, I've learned a lot just looking back on that. Obviously, I have children that age now of the age that I was when I was going through that. Um, and I would never suggest to them that they hide a mistake that they've made, because a baby is a blessing. And any baby that is born on this earth has a purpose. and God has allowed them to see the light of day for a reason. So, of course, I feel differently now, but at 17 years old, I was even shameful about the situation surrounding my pregnancy and who the father was. And, I shut down and I became silent regarding all of that. So, of course, I had to deal with it years later. So I paid a price for not dealing with it then. But now, as I look back, there are so many things that I could have done differently. But I honestly just did the best I could.
Yes.
I really just did the best that I could. And so I'm grateful for the journey because those are lessons that I had to learn and I've carried them through life.
And look how you're using that to help other people. Hindsight, as they say, is 2020. I think
Mm-hmm.
as you get older, you're able to look at things and go, I wish I had done that different. But at the time, you did the best that you could do. And I think it's so important for women to know that and let go of the guilt and shame that society and people around us put on us, to recognize that you are doing the best you can. And as a teenager, your world view and point of reference is so limited. You don't have the experiences to inform your decisions. And so it's amazing to me how we get so mad at teenagers for their decisions, not recognizing and looking back on, we didn't know any better. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you expect that? And how do we begin to love and support them in a way that they can overcome those situations that are challenging? And for you, faith has always been such a big part of your life. Talk
Oh,
about
yes.
how your faith has gotten you through, because this hasn't been the only challenge that you faced.
Oh no. My faith is my foundation. And when I say that, I absolutely mean it. My foundation is in Christ because that is the foundation that my parents put in me. And so no matter what mistakes I made as a teen, I always reverted back to my faith. As an adult now, I always, I don't revert back to my faith now. I walk in that faith daily. But, um, as I stated, I got married at 19 years old. And in 2016, my marriage started just falling apart. In 2016, I had been married for 17 years. And my oldest daughter was off at school her first year of college. And during her first year of college, we sent her to Johnson and Wales University. Um, our household just hit a tragedy. She was at college and she was assaulted badly
Mm.
by an Uber driver in her first year of school. And we had to rush to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I had to pack up her dorm and get her back to Dallas. And our household just went through changes, and it led to a series of things with my marriage, and my marriage just could not sustain it. So after 18 years of marriage, I found myself going through a divorce. And that divorce was difficult. It was painful. I was in the middle of doing ministry myself and found myself being the one that needed to be ministered to.
Mhm.
I was running the residential program here at Viola's house, and my own house was falling apart. Um, Not only that, if you hear my voice, this is a new voice for me because in the middle of my divorce, I went through a trachea reconstruction, which was a very difficult surgery where my entire trachea needed to be reconstructed, and I was on life support for 4 days and had to undergo 6 more surgeries after that, all while going through a divorce and trying to put my life back in order and learn how to become a single mother to my now teenage daughters. So I went through a very, very difficult season. And